Hello, and welcome to part one of AARP's program, Staying Safe in Today's Risky Online World. My name is Susan DeCamp, and I'm a volunteer leader on AARP Nebraska's Executive Council. Have you ever been hacked? It's very common in today's online world. In this session, you will learn about basic cybersecurity tips for protecting your computers, accounts, and personal information from fraud and identity theft. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our special guest, Ron Woerner. Ron is a noted consultant, speaker, and writer in the security industry. He has been featured for worldwide events including TED, International Information Systems Security Certification, Information Systems Audit and Control, and ARSA Crypto System conferences, as well as numerous other cybersecurity industry podcasts and webinars. As President and Chief Security Evangelist at Cyber AAA LLC, Ron works as a security consultant, delivering awareness, performing security risk assessments, and advising small, medium, and large organizations. Ron established the Cybersecurity Studies program at Bellevue University, an NSA Center of Excellence, where he still teaches. Ron has numerous technology degrees and is passionate about keeping people safe and sane online. Please join me in welcoming Ron Woerner.
Hello, Susan. Thank you for having me. Let's start by asking a question. Have you ever had your identity stolen? Are you concerned about what may be happening in our crazy online world? What simple steps can we all take just to protect ourselves, our loved ones, our communities online? That's what this session is about. It's just cyber safety 101. What are some of the basics? But let me tell you, what I've learned as a cybersecurity professional for well over 15 years is that if you're covering the basics, you're protecting yourself from almost any of the bad things. Of course, if someone wants to go after you, they will find a way. I talk to hackers worldwide, both ethical and sometimes not so. We've all come to the same conclusion that almost anything can be breached. So stay tuned. I will show you what you can do to protect yourself online. I'm going to start though with just a little bit about myself. As Susan mentioned, I teach for Bellevue University. I have my own cybersecurity consulting company. What we're covering today, why you need to be cyber safe, what are some of the threats when you are connected online? And yes, we are all connected online. Why do I do this? My mom, 89 years old, lives in a senior residence in Michigan. I want to make sure she is safe online. As Susan mentioned, I've been doing this for a long time and I'm passionate about helping people online. We'll talk about browser safety, how to protect your identity, your user IDs and passwords, the evil word ransomware. Sounds scary, right? Talk about that and what you can do. Let me ask you this, though. How many of you have been paying attention? Who am I? No, no, no. I don't have amnesia. I remember who I am. How do you know who I am? You may have heard of the idea of deep fakes, where someone can pretend to be someone else on the internet, both with the image and their voice. Hmm. So, how do you know I'm not a deep fake? How can I prove my identity? You may just say, "Well, Ron, just show us your driver's license." Okay, here you go. I'm not actually going to show it. I'm not that silly. Don't show your driver's license to people over the internet unless you quadruple check that you know specifically who they are. Oh, by the way, how do you know I didn't fake a driver's license though? Are you an expert? Maybe you're former law enforcement, and you may be. But how do I share my identity though without compromising my own privacy? These are all the topics we'll cover. Let me ask you this. Do you remember this cartoon from the New Yorker? On the internet, No one knows you're a dog. Do you remember when this was published? Back in 1993. So it's funny. People, when they hear what I do, oh, you're in cybersecurity. That must be all fascinating. It's all so new. Not really. It's very much the same thing every day when it comes to how do we fight these malicious actors trying to take over our computers, take over our identity. So, this challenge we have, how do I prove who I am without compromising my privacy? It's called the identity paradox. So, why are we here? Well, first of all, did I mention I'm a hacker? I've always been a hacker. But, Ron, where's your hoodie? Not all hackers wear hoodies. Just kind of goes with it. I do have hoodies, but no, I'm being professional today. I'm an ethical hacker, though, completely on the side of good. I just don't have any motivation to go to the dark side, even when I'm trying to help out my clients. I sometimes have to think like someone malicious, someone trying to do harm, but I don't actually do it. But answer for yourself. What do you want out of this session? Throughout this session, I'm going to be sharing resources to help you. We are in the midst of a cyber war. Look at the news. Almost daily, there's a new hack, a new breach, new identity theft, new ransomware, something bad happening. Ask your local law enforcement, ask your local FBI, Homeland Security. Billions of dollars lost, affecting many millions of people here in the United States. And our older Americans are the ones that are being targeted. Sometimes you're not as tech savvy, or sometimes you just part of the generation may be a little bit more trusting. So that's why I'm here to help you. According to a Pew Research study, though, 79%, so about 4/5 of US adults are concerned about how data is being used, concerned about privacy. You might just be thinking, though, well, Ron, what about privacy laws? Yes, many states throughout the United States now have privacy laws, such as California, Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, Utah, but not all. And we don't necessarily have a global law, definitely don't have one across the globe, across the world. Even within the United States, they are very inconsistent. So it's up to you to protect your own personal information. What is personal information, you may ask? Well, of course, it's who you are, your name, where you are. Did you know right now, if you're watching this through Facebook or even as the recording, Facebook knows where you are? Are they doing anything malicious with it? No. Why does Facebook need to know where you are? So they could target advertising for you. It really can be very convenient. Rather than you seeing advertising for Florida or North Dakota or somewhere outside of where you may live, they can help you find the restaurants, find the businesses in your area. It can also be used for bad, though. All of this is a double edged sword. What you are doing. So, have you ever looked up to purchase something online, whether it's Target, Walmart, or Amazon, and then you see advertising for it all over? They're tracking. And again, it's to help you, but it also can be used potentially to try to harm you as part of spyware or adware. Other parts of PII, what you have. So this could be a health condition. HIPAA. HIPAA has been around for 20 years, so that I've been vaccinated against the coronavirus, COVID-19. That could potentially, again, check with your local legal authorities as to what may be allowed and what may not be. But age, marital status, of course, name, email, all are pieces of information you want to protect. Let me ask you this, though. Do you know where your data is? So I grew up near New York City. At 10 p.m. on one of the TV stations, every night they would say, "It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?" I now ask this question of you. It's whatever time it is for you, where is your personal data? You need to own it. You need to take control of it, know who is using it, know how it can be used. So, why do you need to be cyber safe? So, I'm going to be covering some of the most typical types of attacks. First, phishing. It's that email that you get from the IRS, or then maybe you ordered a package and they're having trouble delivering it, and you're like, "But wait, I didn't just get a new TV from Target." Phishing. We've been battling it for over 10 years. Social engineering. It's just the old con job. It's where I'm trying to convince you of to do something that may or may not be in your own best interest. And then I've already mentioned ransomware. I'll show you what this is. It's basically the bad guys holding your computer hostage until you pay their ransom. They're locking it. From a recent report, for those who are interested in some of the statistics, 85% of all of the breaches worldwide are because of humans doing something. We click on things we shouldn't click on, trust someone we shouldn't trust, open a website that maybe one we shouldn't be going to. We're still seeing phishing as a major form of attack. And then ransomware, again, 1 out of every 10 type of attacks. Social engineering, con job, what are they trying to do? Trying to get you to be helpful. Hey, can you help me out? I'm I'm a college professor, and one of my students is doing a survey. If I send you a link, can you take a survey for him? There, I'm trying to con you right there. The survey website could be one of my malicious websites. People, we like to be helpful. We want to trust people. Quick tip here, though: trust but verify. Trust but verify. Sometimes we're trying to get you to act without thinking. The malicious hackers, by the way. Technology, though, just a tool for manipulation. Just that an ounce of discernment can go a long way. You may just ask, so how do these baddies find me? LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, sometimes it's just random. They find you through some type of other social media. Sometimes your information may be part of a recent data breach that they just happen to pull up. I popped this term up on the screen, OSINT, OSINT. That means open source intelligence. One thing I didn't tell you, Susan, that who I am is I'm a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer. Yeah, the Air Force I served for 5 years. They paid for my college degrees. Open source intelligence is just OSINT. What do I find on the news feeds? That's often where they find the victim, where the malicious people find their victims. It's just using whatever is available open on the internet. I previously mentioned phishing still goes on. This is directly from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, here in the United States. They call it business email compromise. It's one of the top threats worked by the FBI today, including the Nebraska field office. I have numerous friends, FBI special agents. They have 8 agents working this at any one time, just in our area alone, where they're trying to take over your account. So if I am able to get your email, then I'm effectively you online, right? I can phish other people and they'll think it's all coming from you. FBI is actively engaged. This actually came from an operation they conducted a few years ago called Rewired. So if you are interested, you can reach out to the local FBI to learn more, because what these bad people are trying to do is steal your identity, steal your user ID and password. You might just think, Ron, I don't really have a whole lot of money, or I'm not that important. Who would want to attack me? I would. to use your account to attack your friends, your loved ones, people you may work with, associate with. I might not steal directly from you, but if I can be you, I can steal from your friends, your family. I can send a note to your family saying, yeah, I've run out of money this month and I had to open a new bank account because my other one got hacked. Can you send money directly to this new bank account? It happens. It's called an account takeover. Phishing still works today. Oh, by the way, how do you know this is a true cybersecurity, cyber safety presentation? We have a Dilbert cartoon. It's kind of required. It's just typical. Many of us see it as a scam. The bad guys are trying for you not to see it, trying to get you to act without thinking. Because finding email, it's easy. I can find anybody's email through open source intelligence. Email is not generally secure. Email has been around for 50 years. Do you believe that? It was not developed with security in mind. We've enabled a lot of additional security features. Other types of phishing, though, I want you to be aware of. You're familiar email phishing standard. Spear phishing, that's a directed attack. So, Susan, let's just say I want to spear phish you. I have your name. I know your work with AARP. So I can send you a very direct email. I can steal the AARP logo, make it seem like maybe it's someone you know at AARP. It's spear phishing is what it's called. Smishing, SMS phishing. Have you gotten a text that says you have a package or trying to get you to go to a naughty website? Happened to a friend of mine, his wife, and it really disturbed her. She didn't go to the website. My friend, who is a cybersecurity IT expert, he did. Um, if you're not familiar with the source, then just don't do it. If someone really needs to get in contact with you, or just always double check. And then wishing. Ooh, what's wishing? I wish upon webinar phishing. Have you been a part of a webinar, whether it's through Zoom or there's many other tools? People put links in the chat that may not be where you should go. That's webinar phishing. How they find victims, as I said, finding an email, they'll spoof it, they'll make it look like it's coming from someone you know. I might just, again, I'm picking on you, Susan. I become you, but I send a note to everyone you know. I create a brand new Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo email account. Yeah, I can't use my regular email because it's just not working. It got hacked. So I have to use my personal Gmail account. So just send everything to this one for now because I can't get access to my regular email. That's a way to spoof it. Lookalike domains. Domain versus domain. It can be really hard to see an M versus an RN together. Compromised. So if I'm able to steal your user ID and password. Actually, let's pull this up. You ready to actually try something? You can go to a website called haveibeenpwned.com. Let me pull it up there. Have I been PWNED? Ron, what's pwned? It's a hacker term, meaning owned, compromised. You can put your email and to see whether it has been compromised. This is actually a valid website run by well-known security researchers to see whether you've been, oh no, I've been pwned in 2 data breaches. What I like about this website, it is associated with a password vault called 1Password, but it just provides simple tips. But yeah, I've been compromised. Where's my information been compromised? So this is my Bellevue University account. 2 data breaches in 2018, once in July, once in November. What has been stolen of mine? Well, my email, okay, that I work for Bellevue. You know that. I'm a professor. No big deal. My name, okay. My university phone number, my university address, and my you know what? I don't care. Say what? All of this I consider to be public. As I said, I own this information. I have made the decision because I want to make sure my students can find me. I never want a student, well, professor, I was going to contact you that I didn't understand the homework, but I couldn't find your information. I'm all over the internet with my Bellevue account, and I do that on purpose. Anyway, take a moment. Check out Have I Been Pwned if you have not played with it. What else? Oh, browser safety. You may see HTTPS. Try to make sure you're using that lock. For example, again, quickly, let me just show the AARP. By the way, their Fraud Watch network, way cool. You can use this to report if you're a victim. But if you notice up here, there's a lock where you can actually view the site information. Tip is just use secure websites. What this tells me, does this tell me AARP is all safe and secure? Maybe. What this tells me, though, this is actually AARP's website. You see, what bad guys, sometimes even the good guys, I can make a website to look like AARP. It's actually not that hard. It'll only take me a couple of hours and send you to it. But I won't have the AARP's lock because only AARP can own this domain of aarp.org. That's what the lock is telling me, that this is really AARP. Other tips, as I mentioned about tracking, you could be tracked on the internet. So take a moment, think, when was the last time you cleared your cookies and your browser cache? Warning though, big warning, is that it may break some things on the internet for you. You may need to relog into sites. So just be aware of when you want to clear your site settings, your browser history. Another threat I've talked about a few times earlier. So, have you been a victim of ransomware? I've had multiple clients who have been. What happens? They lock your computer, the hackers, the bad guys. They hold it for ransom until you pay, often in Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin is a lot harder to trace than regular types of currencies. It's well-known type of attack. You may have heard this term in news media, RAAS, ransomware as a service. Yeah, did you know I can go to the dark web and pay someone to hold you and your computer for ransom? That's what we're seeing. Why do they do this, Ron? To make money, actually. Many countries where this comes from, this is a way that young people make money. I know it's awful. They don't really have other forms of earning income except for work for it's actually like a big corporation that does this. They run it like a big organization, complete with human resources, training, etc. But their job, steal your money. What can you do about ransomware, you may ask? Well, just enable your antivirus. Know where you're going. Often ransomware starts with phishing. Many of us have devices all around us. It's called the Internet of Things, like my watch. Or do you have a Google Home device or an Amazon device? Ooh, I'm going to try to hack you. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Echo. Hey, Siri. How many of your devices may have just gone off? Cancel. I want to make sure nothing bad happens. So, Ron, are you saying I shouldn't have those devices? No, I have Amazon Alexa at home. I use it frequently. I really like it. Just be aware. It its job is to listen to us. It provides a lot of convenience. Turn it off. Turn off the mic if you're not comfortable with it. Internet of Things. Internet is all around us. So let's dive into what you can do. It's up to you. I've given you lots of little tips. One place you can go to learn more, and I'll provide more here in a little bit. Stop, think, connect. It's a website and it's a mindset. Stop and think before you connect with others. Stop Think Connect, by the way, is run by the Department of Homeland Security here in the United States. So it is vetted, it is a very valid website. Other things you can do: trust but verify. So I am over 50. For those of us over 50, do you remember who said trust but verify in the 1980s? Trivia time. Of course, Ronald Reagan talking about Soviet nuclear program. Works on the internet, though. I'll trust you. Like, Susan, you and I haven't ever met. How do I know I can trust you? Well, you're very trustworthy and plus with AARP, but just I'm always a little bit skeptical. Trust but verify. Plus, we've been vetted through other parties. Using what's known as multi-factor authentication. I'll talk about this in a moment. Store your passwords in a safe vault. You may ask, Ron, can I write down my passwords? Yes. My security friends are now having minor cows. But I thought you said never write down. My mom has her passwords written down. I'll tell everybody. They're in her safe apartment. You'd have to find where she lives. You'd have to break into her apartment. By the way, she's in her apartment almost all the time. It's in a secure facility. It really provides me with a sense of assurance because if something happens to my mom, I may need access to her accounts. You can use an online password vault as well. Now, with multi-factor, it's just providing more than a password. Be prepared. What happens if you are a victim? I'll provide you with some tips. So just know, who are you going to call if you get phishing or you get ransomware or someone's trying to con you? Use antivirus, as I mentioned. This will help prevent ransomware. And then keep your computer up to date. When you get that pop-up, I know it's annoying. You get the pop-up that says you need to update, do it. Do you remember the old oil filter commercial? Pay me now or pay me later. Same thing with cybersecurity. Pay now by updating, take a few moments, schedule your updates, or you can pay a lot more later. The biggest tip I have, though, when in doubt, ask. It's really that simple. Let me try this. Hey, Susan, I just got this email from the IRS saying that I didn't pay my 2020 taxes. I know I paid my 2020 taxes, and that I'm going to be fined unless I pay right now, and I have to go to this website to pay. What do you think? If Susan was really on, she would say, Ron, that's got to be a scam. Did you know that's actually as easy as it is to stop most scams? Just stop and think and ask somebody. They don't have to be a cyber expert. Like, Susan, I don't think you're a cyber expert, but you can be just a voice of reason, someone for me to bounce an idea off of. And you'd be the one to say, well, Ron, maybe you should contact the IRS. Ask them directly. Or if you get it from your bank or FBI. By the way, FBI is not going to fine you over the internet. No. FBI, if they are going to have questions for you, they're going to show up wherever you are wearing very nice suits. They dress extremely well, being very professional. I have a ton of respect. Password vaults, I quickly mentioned earlier. Do I recommend them? Yes. Here are some that you could potentially use. LastPass, KeePass, numerous others. You could even store them within your browser. Just be aware who could access your browser. These are normally separate programs. The other thing, make sure if you use one of these, whoever can gain access to your safe, your password vault, make sure you limit it. Make sure the password you use for it is very long, so at least 15 characters, and very strong. I mentioned multi-factor briefly. Something you know, something you have, something you are. Something you know, a password. Something you own, your cell phone. So you might get a code on your cell phone. Something you are, biometrics. Sometimes I'm asked, Ron, is it safe to use my fingerprint on my computer? Generally, yes. Your computer, something you have. Your fingerprint, facial recognition, something you are. Just be aware, because we've seen this happen with kids. The kid will find their parents sleeping, grab the parent's phone, hold the phone up to the parent's face to unlock it with facial recognition. That's why lock away your phones. Um, how to check for malicious software? You can go to virustotal.com. So you get a web link or an attachment, and you're like, well, my spidey senses are going off that this might be evil, but my antivirus isn't saying anything. Ron, how can I double check my antivirus? Virustotal.com is a way to double check it. Again, it's a valid site. It actually checks against over 70 different antivirus programs. So rather than you installing 70 different antivirus, anti-malware programs, you can just use VirusTotal. I frequently use it. I briefly mentioned stay up to date. And then last, going for help. We will provide these resources to you, numerous really good ones. Reach out, whether it's through AARP, local Better Business Bureau. Here in Nebraska, the Better Business Bureau has a senior helpline. You can contact them. FBI, if you need to report cybercrime, ic3.gov. Numerous others, if you are a victim of cybercrime, Cybercrime Support Network, cybercrimesupport.org. And then just for general cyber safety information, check out staysafeonline.org. That is my parting thought for you. Use these resources to protect yourself, protect your loved ones, protect your community, because together we can be cyber safe. I'm Ron Woerner with Cyber AAA, talking to you about simple steps for staying safe online.
Thank you so much, Ron, for that excellent presentation. I do have a few questions, if you wouldn't mind.
Please.
Okay. First of all, is ransomware primarily a threat to businesses and large organizations, or should we be concerned about ransomware attacks on our own home computers?
Ooh, that is a great question. So, ransomware can happen to anybody, even if they can steal $100 from their victims. That's $100 extra. And in some of these countries, $100 may mean more like 1,000 in the United States because of the power of money. Plus, think of it this way. If I steal $100 from 10 people, so that's $1,000, 100 people, that's $10,000. So it can add up quickly. So yes, anybody can be a victim of ransomware. Where we're seeing it too is even within churches, synagogues, religious groups, community groups being victims of ransomware. So it's not just for yourself as an individual, but being able to help those around you as well. Great question, Susan.
Great, thanks for the answer. And then passwords. I know you mentioned that your mother writes down her
Mhm.
passwords and keeps them in a safe place. Um, could you just talk a little bit about password vaults, and
Mhm.
are they superior to writing down and keeping in a safe place?
So yes, with a password vault, what's nice is that it'll automatically associate, say, with the website. So you don't need to remember the password. And it's actually the way it's these different vaults are developed is they are very solid from a security point of view. They've been tested by hackers worldwide to make sure no one can break in. They actually use industry standard encryption to protect the passwords inside. So I actually do recommend using one of these passwords vaults at this point. And if you need to write down the password as well, because here's sometimes the challenge is that if something happens to me, I'll just use mine example. I use one of these as a password vault. If something happens to me though, How will my son gain access to my accounts if he needs to be able to help me? So what I do is I've actually written down the password to my vault and I keep it in my safe at home that my son knows the password to. He has a key to it. So this way he can get to my accounts. But he won't necessarily see them all written down. They're all on my online accounts. Because think about it, Susan, how many different online accounts do you now have? 30, 50? I mean, just so it's too many to keep written down at this point. Something else about passwords, don't use the same password across multiple sites. Because think about it, if I gain access to, say, your Facebook account, it shouldn't be the same password to get to your bank account. So use different passwords across the internet. One way to help you remember it and manage all of them is to use a password vault.
Great. Thanks for that answer. I know a lot of us, myself included, I have to admit that a lot of times I use that same password for so many of those sites. So I do need to set up my vault.
Right.
I will get to working on that. And then I had one final question. You touched a little bit on the multi-factor authentication and saying, that was a security. What about VPNs or virtual private networks?
So, what a VPN will do will be able to hide where you are coming from. So, generally, your internet service provider knows where you're going on the internet and other people can track you. A VPN, normally you'll have to purchase a VPN. I don't recommend going with one of the free ones, mainly because you get what you pay for. And the free ones, you don't know if they're watching you. There are numerous ones that you can use. I didn't include the slide in the slide deck. If you want to hide where you're going on the internet a little bit more, generally, though, for most seniors, you don't need that level of protection. You're going to main websites such as your bank, such as maybe Facebook or your sports sites or news sites, etc., where it's do you really care if people know that you've gone there? I go to ESPN to be able to see what's happening with sports because I like sports. Okay, who cares? Yeah, that may not be able to be used against me. So it really comes down to what are you trying to do? If you are doing a lot of financials on the internet, maybe it is something to consider. But for general day to day use, I actually tend not to use a VPN, mainly because I'm at home. Now, where may you want to use a VPN? If you're using public Wi Fi a lot, so you're going out to a pub, to a coffee shop using their Wi Fi, it's a possibility someone on that Wi Fi could be watching what you're doing. So if I'm using a public Wi Fi, I'll use a VPN. So, and when I travel, I use a VPN as well because I don't always know who I'm connecting with. So just
Okay, so mostly if you're on a public Wi-Fi or if you're doing a lot of financial
right.
transactions, but typically your banking would be okay
Yes.
just using, okay, all right. Okay,
Banks are highly regulated for internet safety. So banks are very safe online today.
great. Thank you for that wonderful information. Again, we really appreciate you joining us today. And I think we've all learned some great practical tips for keeping us safe online. Thanks again, Ron.
You are welcome.
And we invite our viewers to tune in next week for part 2 of our program, which will zero in on current internet scams and frauds. Join us here on Facebook at 11 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday, August 18th, or view the recording at your convenience. And remember, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Be sure to check out AARP's fraud fighting resources at aarp.org/fraud watch network. And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time, Ron.
Be safe.